In a small, peaceful town on the outskirts of Sacramento, California, life usually moved slowly. Neighbors greeted each other, kids played on porches, and elders enjoyed their afternoon walks. But on one chilly morning, something felt terribly wrong. At the corner of Maple Avenue, where there was usually an old blue rocking chair on the porch of a cozy white house, there was instead an elderly woman sitting alone on a metal bus stop bench. Her name was Grandma Rose, 85 years old, gentle, warm-hearted, and loved by everyone who knew her. But today, she looked fragile, confused, and heartbroken. Wrapped in a thin, worn-out blanket, she sat shivering as cars rushed by without noticing her. The early winter breeze cut through her clothes, and the cold gnawed at her bones. She held an old photograph in her hands, a picture of the home she had lived in for nearly 50 years. A home filled with memories of her late husband, her children, and holidays spent laughing around the fireplace. But now, that very home was occupied by strangers who had taken everything from her. Just a week earlier, Rose had returned from a short hospital visit. She'd had a mild fall, and doctors wanted to keep her for observation. When she came back, she expected to walk into her familiar living room, sit in her favorite rocking chair, and rest. Instead, she found the doors locked, windows covered, and loud music coming from inside. A group of squatters, young, aggressive, and completely unbothered, had broken in while she was away. When she protested, they mocked her, threatened her, and slammed the door in her face. With limited mobility, no nearby family, and no money for a hotel, Rose was left with nowhere to go. The neighbors wanted to help, but the squatters scared them off with their wild behavior. Some called the police, but the process was slow and complicated. Days passed, and Rose continued sitting outside, hoping someone, anyone, would help her reclaim her home. But hope was beginning to fade. Then, on a late afternoon when the sky was painted in shades of orange and purple, the rumbling sound of motorcycles echoed through the street. The Iron Guardians Motorcycle Club, a group known for their tough appearance but strong sense of justice, were riding through the neighborhood after attending a charity event. Their leather jackets, polished chrome, and roaring engines usually drew attention, but today, it was something else that caught their eye. As they slowed near the bus stop, Hawk, their leader, noticed the small elderly woman hugging her blanket, staring at her home with a heartbreaking mix of longing and fear. He signaled his group to pull over. The bikers parked their bikes, and the growling engines faded into silence. Hawk approached gently, kneeling beside her. "Ma'am, are you all right?" Rose looked up, her eyes tired but hopeful. With a trembling voice, she whispered the words that would change everything. Hawk stood there for a moment, looking at Grandma Rose with a mixture of disbelief and anger. Anger not at her, but at the injustice she had suffered. The other bikers gathered around, their tough faces softening as she explained everything. How she returned from the hospital, how squatters forced her out, and how she had been living on the street ever since. Every detail only made the Iron Guardians more determined. "Rose," Hawk said gently, "we're going to fix this. Today." The bikers helped her stand and wrapped her in one of their heavy leather jackets to keep her warm. As a few stayed with her, Hawk and the rest headed toward her house. Their boots hit the pavement with purpose, and the roar of their motorcycles still echoed in the quiet neighborhood. When they reached the house, they saw curtains moving, loud music shaking the windows, and trash scattered all over the porch, clear signs of disrespect. Hawk knocked firmly, once, twice, then much harder. The door swung open, and a tall man with messy hair glared at them. "What do you want?" he snapped. Hawk didn't raise his voice. "This is Rose's home. You need to leave, now." The squatters laughed. One of them stepped forward, trying to intimidate the bikers, but intimidation didn't work on men who had faced far worse in their lives. The Iron Guardians weren't just a club. They were veterans, ex-workers, fathers, brothers, men who didn't tolerate bullies. The squatters pushed back at first, swearing and threatening, but the bikers stood their ground, firm, silent, and unshakable. Hawk raised his hand calmly and dialed the police. "We've got illegal squatters here," he said. "The homeowner is present." When the squatters heard homeowner and police, their confidence started cracking. The bikers didn't touch them. They didn't need to. Their presence alone was enough to keep things controlled until officers arrived. Within minutes, 2 patrol cars pulled up. The police spoke with Rose, confirmed the situation, and legally removed the squatters from the property. They were furious, yelling insults as they were escorted out, but the bikers didn't even look at them. Their focus was Rose. Once the house was finally hers again, the real work began. The Iron Guardians grabbed gloves, trash bags, and tools from their bikes. Some cleaned the porch, others fixed broken locks, and a few went inside to assess the damage. It was messy. Broken bottles, dirt everywhere, but nothing the bikers couldn't handle. Meanwhile, 2 bikers drove to the local store and returned with groceries, warm blankets, cleaning supplies, and even fresh flowers. When Rose was brought back to her doorstep, she gasped. Her porch was clean, her door repaired, and inside she saw her kitchen stocked with food she hadn't had in weeks. She covered her mouth with trembling hands. Tears rolled down her cheeks. This time, tears of relief. "You boys, you brought me home," she whispered. Hawk smiled softly, his rough voice warm. "We look after our own, Rose. Your family now." The sun dipped below the horizon, casting a warm glow on the small white house. For the first time in days, Rose stepped inside her home, safe, protected, and surrounded by people who cared. The Iron Guardians saluted her before leaving, engines rumbling proudly. Rose stood at her doorway, watching them ride off, knowing she would never forget the day the bikers fought for her when no one else would. "They took my home." The bikers exchanged looks, angry, shocked, and determined. Hawk stood up slowly, jaw tightening. "No one does that to an old lady," he murmured. And at that moment, the Iron Guardians silently agreed. Grandma Rose wasn't alone anymore.